And this afternoon I had one of those embarrassing experiences when you're talking to someone, you're both speaking the same language and neither of you can understand what the other one's saying. And I was speaking to a member of the band, The Undertones, and he asked me to play something for a whole bunch of people there in Derry. The names seemed to be Eddie McLaughlin, Joe Breslin, Paddy Crawford, Dick Tucker, the McGillies.
And Floss is still bringing in the emails. Here's one from Andrew in Holmfirth, West Yorkshire, saying, "Isn't it about time we heard the best record in the whole history of the world ever, yet again? Well, why not?"
Another girl in the neighborhood. Wish she was mine, she looks so good. I wanna hold her tight. Get teenage kicks right through the night. I'm gonna call her on the telephone. Have her over 'cause I'm all alone. I need excitement, oh I need it bad. And it's the best I've ever had. I wanna hold her tight. Get teenage kicks right through the night.
712665222, the number of the programme. Look, a local phone company is now making a documentary about the Undertones. It's presented by the man who first broadcast the single Teenage Kicks and who wants it to be played at his funeral. He's John Peel, of course, and he joins me in the studio. John, welcome.
Thank you very much.
John, time and music passes by, of course, very often, but still your number with this association with the Undertones. Are you sick of that? Because you're seen as their champion.
No, I feel guilty that that I've been sort of inflicted on them in a sense, But I do. You're right. It is supposed to be played at my funeral, which hopefully won't be for a while yet. And indeed, I'm very tempted to arrange to have on my tombstone "Teenage Kicks so hard to beat," because I just think that's as profound as anything.
Teenage dreams so hard to beat. Every time she walks down the street.
The initial idea was, let's do something because we're bored.
Wish she was mine, she looks so good. I wanna hold her tight. Get teenage kicks.
I thought the band were going to do well. There was I had a kind of self-belief that the band would get to some level.
Anything other than a real job, I'm really glad I chose friends like that at school. Otherwise I would never have been in the Undertones at all.
Personally, to me, it was the biggest adventure on the planet.
Dear Mr. John Peel, this is a recording of the Undertones. We come from Derry, Northern Ireland. We are John, rhythm guitar, age 20. Mickey, bass, age 18. Billy, drums, age 18 and a half. Sharkey, notice not Feargal, Sharkey singing, 18. Damian, lead guitar, 16 and 3/4. We would like it if you would play the tape on your programme. Good luck, the Undertones. P.S. We have sent you some photographs of the band. All the songs are our own. So then John Peel wrote back, "Dear Undertones, I've behaved like a typical music business arsehole over your tape, and I'm genuinely sorry about this. Really like the tape. I think you should record a session for us. John Peel, the world's most boring man."
Oh, right. I've lost the stamp that said John Peel, the world's most boring man.
Bull Park is up there where we used to play football and where we got the photographs taken for the first LP.
Yeah, that's it. Is that where the sleeve was done down there?
That's where the sleeve was done.
But you were talking about abuse, the Undertones and stuff. Recently, I'm up here with the Undertones where it's written.
Yeah.
That was written by a certain fan of ours.
Yeah.
I think within like two or 3 days, somebody dubbed "Hang" next to it.
Hard, yeah. Yeah.
Why do I find that funny?
I don't know. Feargal should be here, though.
Absolutely.
Don't I need a stunt double for this?
It's only recently that I've realised that he's never here for these things because the four of us have now got so used to it, you know. But I do think it's a bit sad, but he was also always sort of more in the spotlight, and he always got the really
the bad as well as the good. Yeah.
Oh, desperate.
Mickey, just hold the feet out for a second. That's it. Lovely.
I found myself in a tent with John, Billy and Vincent O'Neill, and they had a band. They always had a band. I joined in a conversation, and I think one of them turned around and says, "Do you want to be in the band?" And I said,
I just vague memories, being much younger, I think I was 14 then or something, of them practicing in the living room, playing like Lindisfarne songs.
We were always listening to the music, and John was always a guy coming on with the records and playing the records, and we'd be thinking, God, it'd be great to do a song like that.
Probably was dreaming about being in a band, you know, the usual thing about, and I didn't do all that great at school and knew the job prospects weren't brilliant and stuff, so the only other way a chance of making good money or having a job that you love was being a footballer or playing in a band.
It was actually Billy Doherty, who I was in the same class with at school. For months had been badgering me basically to come and sing in this band that him and a couple of friends of his had. And they did have lots of equipment and guitars and drum kits and amplifiers and things. Absolutely, and I was really impressed by the whole thing, to discover much, much later on that it was all borrowed and begged and absolutely none of it was theirs and none of it belonged to anybody and nobody really knew too much about what the hell they were doing.
Somebody must have said something to you that perhaps you ought to take this a bit more seriously, move outside the bedroom.
First ever show we played was a little scout hall. It was just in front of about 30 little kids, whatever, but it was a good laugh. Do you remember that? The very first time we ever played. Then, like a few weeks later, we played again in front of like hundreds of kids in this school, secondary school, and that went even better.
Oh, did it? They weren't. Sometimes they kind of, you know, they know you too well to be prepared to acknowledge that they.
We went down great actually. It was really.
And that was probably
it was a huge boost for our confidence.
Did they like you, or were they pissed off that they thought you show off?
Absolutely despised and loathed us every second of it. Plus that, you know, they were kind of waiting to go, well, the summer holidays are here and we have to stand in this gymnasium listening to this lot for the next 20 minutes when we should be outside sort of robbing orchards and nicking cars and doing whatever people do during the school holidays. Absolutely.
But the actual town, I mean, it was bleak that years because of the Troubles. There was nothing going on there, no bands ever played. It needed an injection of money and stuff, and of course that didn't happen. I was quite young as well, so I didn't really know what was going on then. A few years later I got to find out, like music-wise, it was in the doldrums.
The thing was that, you know, to put it in context, I guess, that on the sort of the live circuit, and even then is perhaps a bit of a grandiose description of it, there was kind of two types of bands at the time. One that still predominantly exists, which were generically known as show bands, that in effect simply did live versions of this week's top 40. And every week they would learn a completely new set based on that week's top 40. And the other were kind of, I guess, by modern methodology, have become called tribute bands, where they knew how to play every single note from Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon, and every Friday night would replicate every single note, where we were kind of, no, you don't want to do that, mate.
We saw the band in the Casbah, which was fantastic gig, and I always loved the Casbah.
And the barmen in the Casbah, if you pogoed, all the bottles started flying off the walls and stuff. And they had these wet towels, and all the kids instinctively knew when to duck on her. And I kept getting wet towels in the face. And I asked, where's the toilet? And they said, well, you can have that wall there or that wall. It was just, it was fantastic because I really loved it.
Once we got a regular thing in the Casbah, to try and keep it interesting for us, we'd try and do a new song every week. And it was easier to try and write a song than doing a cover version, because you have to work out, well, for me anyway, I had never agreed to hear and stuff, working out chords and that sort of thing. So it was easier to try and, put a few chords together. Which made it easier for me.
I saw the band on a number of occasions. I saw them once in the Casbah when, when I was probably the oldest person in the audience. I come up from Dublin, and a friend, actually the son of a friend, actually insisted that I come because I was writing about music, insisted that I come and see them in the Casbah, and I did, sort of. And one of the things about great bands is that you know a great band when you hear it. You don't have to analyse it, sort of, and within 10 bars the first time you heard them live, gosh, this is something special. And it's in the Casbah, in this sort of overground dungeon.
Casbah, for the purposes of history, was actually a porta cabin that you'll see on any building site anywhere in the world. So we're not talking about some sort of grandiose venue here. That had actually been placed over a hole in the ground where the previous establishment had been bombed to oblivion.
Alright, Casbah, 24th of February 1977, we got £20. We've definitely made a name for ourselves. It was fucking brilliant. For our sake, it had to be brilliant. Sound was fair all round. Fair? I don't think we would have been looked on as a brilliant new group if Billy hadn't demolished the drums at the end of TVI. He just went mad along with me and John, getting all the feedback we could. We're invited back in 2 weeks' time, and if that goes well, we'll be playing there regularly. Like I said, this is the year of the Undertones. Classic stuff.
I always like the instrumentals anyway. A twangy guitar is still hard to beat, I think.
That's right, you're big
Every time I walk down the street.
But that's good.
You want to change up?
I'll make a note of it.
You have to remember in 1978, it wasn't that easy to make a record. Certainly very few people were doing it in Derry, and we knew that Terry Hooley in Belfast was putting out these records. So we managed to get a tape to Terry Hooley.
I had listened to it for 2 weeks non-stop, every night. And I was, at that time in the 70s, there was loads of people used to come round to our house, and every night I played it to them and they all hated it. And then one night a guy called Ricky Flanagan, who made poaching at the time, we were drinking his poaching, and at about 3 o'clock in the morning he said to me, I understand what you're on about, I think this band are good. So I had somebody else, and I wanted to do the Undertones. But there was a few other bands at the time that I wanted to do, and I was going to meet one band and to tell them that I was going to do them, because we didn't have much money. And I met Bernie McInerney in the shop, and he was going back to Derry, and he told me that the Undertones were going to break up if I didn't sign them up and stuff. And I said to him, I'll tell you when I get across the road. And when I got across the road, I said to Mac, tell him we're on the label.
What a lovely sound. I mean, far from it being, an angry, aggressive sound, it's actually very sweet and beautiful, and just because of the type of people they were and what they were trying to say and so on. When you hear at the opening of Teenage Kicks, when you hear John and Damian and Mickey on the bass and Billy Doherty sort of on the drums, sort of the way those sounds intermesh, the first thing that strikes me about it is just, how beautiful it is. I mean, how sweet the sound is. And then when you factor in, I mean, Feargal's shimmering voice floating through the instruments, you know, it's a gorgeous noise. And I think that's significant, really. You know, this was a band that sounded beautiful, you know, coming from an ugly place. You know, and while many people would, in conventional terms, see sort of that, sort of the sweetness and the beauty of their music as something soft and mainstream, that was far from mainstream in the Bogside in 1977 and 1978.
My memories of the earlier days of the Undertones before we got signed, and even when we did get signed, it was bedlam. There was constant fights every weekend. Like, we'd pack up our gear and come out of the Casbah, and there's always boys waiting to punch your brains out. And even going home, we used to run up William Street because there's always guys there waiting to hit you a slap. I don't know why.
Was it dangerous to kind of raise your head metaphorically above the parapet, to do anything really that attracted attention to yourself?
We did come on for a fair bit of stick, you know, even before we were on top of Pops and then afterwards, you know.
But stick for what, though?
Well, I mean, a lot of it stems from Feargal, actually. A lot of people hated Feargal because he was an exhibitionist. Because we always get abuse in the street, right? But Feargal was the only one who gave him abuse back. He wasn't afraid. We were kind of cowards. So we just
which I would have been with you. Yeah.
We were going down to get a newspaper and cigarettes, and this kid ran across the road to spit on Feargal. And it really freaked me out. Well, first of all, I thought he was going to shoot us or something, and it really freaked me out. And I just I never really got over that, because in Belfast, people couldn't be born to walk across the road and spit on you. But it was just like, here was a band who had even got a record contract, and this guy was coming over to spit on him and tell him they were rubbish. And I really freaked. I mean, to this day, it still really disturbs me that people could do that.
I knew that I personally was uncomfortable there. I obviously didn't set out, certainly I don't think at any time going, oh, okay, fantastic, I've got a bit of a sort of foothold into a band here, music is now going to be my path out of here. It simply could not have been that developed a plan and that developed a strategy, because the reality and the chances of somebody in our position at that time pulling it off were just so remote, it was just not worth thinking about.
The Undertones attracted a lot of resentment. They attracted a lot of appreciation from their immediate friends and from people who just liked their music, and there were other people thinking like them, but they also were surrounded by suspicion and even hostility, because they were, I think, perceived as a group of young people who were not conforming to what was expected and what was imposed upon them, almost as a sort of communal duty, to be, part of the Bogside and the Bogside struggle, and to simply express that. So it must have been very difficult for them. And although they expressed it very casually and did express it very casually, it took away, I suppose, a bit of courage and sort of a steadiness of purpose on their part, actually, to do what they did and to stick with it in the face of quite a lot of hostility and even contempt.
I remember like it was yesterday. I had been promising that I would go see the Searchers, and I went with Paul McNally, who worked for me, and all of a sudden this record comes on, Teenage Kicks, and it it was so amazing, the record, that I just said, oh, pull over.
So, Sire Records, how did you get involved with them? What was that like? Well, going from the kind of something that you could identify with, like Good Vibrations, to something that you plainly couldn't, like Sire Records.
Oh, well, we could identify with Sire, because Sire had the Ramones, and we sort of, based our musical career around the Ramones, you could nearly say, You've probably heard the story about how Seymour Stein heard you playing the record, and he pulled over and all this, and he had oh my God, I have to get this. No, I don't think it's not. He's not that bad.
That was me.
It was you, John. No, he burst into floods of dollars.
I said, look, McNally, you're going to Derry. I said, we've got to sign this act. They're fantastic.
he had a meeting with us the next day, and we had an entourage of about 15. And he was so intimidating. He couldn't understand us anyway, and he didn't know who was in the band or he wasn't. You could just see he was like,
and he was really because he was really quiet. He got nicknamed Noisy, Noisy McNally.
He had been in Feargal's house, and he said, "My God, this guy has won every award. You know, the sitting room is filled with all these awards from the Catholic school that he goes to for, you know, singing in the choir and singing in the church and singing here and in the school." And he said, "I said, well, this guy's got such a fabulous voice."
We signed the deal with Sire. In fact, three of us signed it in Derry, with the understanding that myself and Feargal would go over to London and finish the negotiations.
Were any of you even remotely businessmen?
Listen, I was earning £7,000 a year. I was the only one with a job. That's as far as our business acumen went.
So, I mean, did the others expect you to sort
drive
out
a hard bargain? Absolutely.
It's up to you, folks.
Damn right they did.
Mickey and Feargal phone us at home. He wants to give us, I don't know how much it was, £16,000 advance. Remember, and this is like, me, Billy and John were going, that doesn't sound much, let's ask for 60. So we said, no, we want 60. And you can hear this expletives in the background. Seymour going apeshit. You must be fucking joking, and all this.
So of course they were going, tell them to fuck off, tell me we want the same deal as the Clash got.
Quite right.
Absolutely. So I did turn around to Seymour Stein and go, no, we want the same, we want 50 grand, the Clash got it, we can get it. And to his credit, he went, all right then.
We're making too many problems, making matters worse. Maybe it's a curse, but oh baby it hurts. Oh baby it hurts. Don't look down, 'cause if you do, you won't see what's in front of you. Can't turn your back on me this time, 'cause if you do, I won't mind. We're making too many problems, making matters worse. Maybe it's a curse, but oh baby it hurts. Oh baby it hurts.
Personally, to me, it was the biggest adventure on the planet. I mean, I just thought it was absolutely just mad to find myself suddenly standing on the edge of the pavement outside JFK Airport, thinking, there's a real live checker cab, and I'm about to get into it and go, take me to Manhattan, please. Where, 20 hours beforehand, I was still dungling around in Derry, down the bog side of me green Parker.
Trying to get home or standing on the corner.
And whenever we had to go away, there were letters written and there were phone calls, and in some cases there were flights home, you know, at great expense, just to see your girlfriend.
We didn't tour that much because various members of the band wouldn't.
What can I do? You know you drive me crazy when I'm looking at you. The summer's really here and it's time to come out. Time to discover what fun is about. Here comes the summer. Here comes the summer. Here comes the summer. Keep on looking for the girls with their faces all tan. They're lying on the beaches all covered in sand. Stretching out the long legs, lying in the sun. Playing on a beautiful, having fun. Here comes the summer.
It was quite hard at the start, no, because we were just sort of in the throes of maybe 3-4 months into the relationship when they get signed. Again, I mean, any 17-year-old girl is going to be totally attracted by that rock and roll lifestyle, you know, our husband, our boyfriend, fiance, whatever, writing all these fantastic songs, getting loads of press written about them. You know, it can be very effective.
And it did cause, you know, probably a fairly much 50-50 split within the band. Those that thought being away and experiencing what was going on in the outside world was the most fantastic, wonderful thing ever. And those who were prepared to do it up to a point.
I had bagfuls of letters from John saying how miserable it was, and it wasn't flash hotels and things like that, you know, but horrible for me as well. I didn't like being apart.
Do a tour, and I'd hang on in London for an extra week or two after, whereas the rest of them would just rush to get home again. So I think, and I kind of was more into that kind of rock and roll thing then, you know, getting drunk and stuff as well. And yes, and then of course I did manage to discover girlfriends or girls then as well through the band, because I was useless at pulling, so it was, instead of, you know, they would come to me instead of the way around. But it was very mild as well, don't get me wrong. It wasn't mad, it wasn't, you know, Led Zeppelin either, proportions.
Well, I was the oldest, sort of 19, 20, when we were kind of just starting to playing the Casbah and that sort of thing. And the rest of them would have been, Damian was obviously the youngest, about 15. Mickey and Billy were, 16, 17. But none of us really had any girlfriends, you know? Like Caroline's the only girlfriend I've ever had, for example.
I vaguely remember once we went to the Ramones concert in Belfast, and John saying he's going to kill me for saying this. He apologised for going on tour because after all he was, you know, in rock and roll now, and he doesn't know what opportunities would arise when he was away, but sort of nice knowing you, Caroline. It lasted all of 2 days, I think, and he was pleading, banging up my door again a couple of days later.
Again, that probably could be, it's in the songs as well too, you know, whereas, you know, if we were a bit more, you know, had a bit more relationships with women and stuff, the songs might have been different too.
I always remember that John, I think I used to work in Wellwards. I worked in Wellwards at the time, and John used to come in, do you want to go to the Top of the Pops in the morning? It was the first time. You know, I was like, what? So we literally, you know, got in a plane the next day. I think we had one bag between us. The band just didn't, I mean, everybody was just totally gobsmacked. It was just so different from anything we'd ever experienced, you know, and getting picked up at the airport, and then the record company, people around you, and meeting all the famous people on Top of the Pops, going up to the BBC bar and seeing people there. And then a famous story, I think it was the first time they did Top of the Pops, which restaurant do you want to go to? You know, the world's your oyster, and they chose McDonald's because they'd never been to McDonald's before. Everybody else is going to these fancy French restaurants. We got that eventually.
Number 38, first time in Undertones and Teenage Kicks.
First time I did Top of the Pops, the next day I was back in Derry delivering TVs for £7 a week. I find it increasingly difficult to kind of sit and try and tell people about what was then rapidly becoming my everyday life. in the context of theirs, where even if it was, well, you know, what have you done? Well, we went to London and we did a bit of recording and then did Top of the Pops and came home again. Well, what have you done? Well, I signed on the dole as always and I'm sitting waiting for me lousy Jerry to come.
Anybody looking at the situation from the outside probably would have expected a rock band coming from that background to be full of anger, with ugly sounds and snarling at the world. The peculiar thing about Derry was, I mean, that was the general attitude of young people in the Bogside. So in a way, if you were revolting against the things around you, you sort of revolted against anger in a strange way. And it was an oppositional statement to decide to aim for the mainstream, to get on top of the pops. I mean, what a strange thing, but yet it made sense if you were coming from that context.
I think we always secretly knew we were really good because we had an ambition, was to play Top of the Pops. So we obviously, something was going on there in the band, and we achieved it. We actually achieved it by going on doing Teenage Kicks. And it was just amazing because it was kind of like a fuck you to people in Derry, people that slagged us in Derry all over the years as well. You know, here we are now. So what, are you going to slag us off now?
Wanna hold her tight, get teenage kicks right through the night. There she goes, I won't see her again. She's gone to school with her best friend. She only does the things she likes to do. Now she wants something new.
You listen to some of the words in the first LP. Some of the lines don't make sense, or even the second LP, Wednesday week. You know, it doesn't make sense. Like even you look at the words of Teenage Kicks, it's like the chemistry of everybody else's song, you know, and obviously with Feargal's unique sort of style of singing as well. Without sounding too pretentious, you know, I try and read all the time, and I love Jack Kerouac. I love the whole beat movement, and you know, used to, you know, the whole Jack Kerouac, the whole idea, the first word, best word. I love that kind of concept. That you just got it out.
We were very aware at the time that we had this image of being ordinary Derry fellas, and people said it was natural and unconscious. I actually, in my case, it wasn't, because and the rest would back this up. You know, I hated any idea of pretense about the band.
And it's a kind of strange thing that society does to you.
Yeah.
Where you end up divorcing yourself from your surroundings, whether you like the idea or not. And it became, for me, just very simple little things. It became difficult to go out and have a drink on a Friday night because I couldn't buy my mates a drink because they thought I was being a flash bastard.
Yeah. You had to come back and face the same friends that you had, you know, a year before. You were famous. You had to come back and still be able to talk to them. And if you had to come back with either an English accent or an American accent, or even unusual clothes, you just couldn't have done it. You could not have walked down the street with your head held high.
This is the last good song of the programme.
I think Derry would have been a very, very hard audience, really, for a young band doing sort of the things that the Undertones were doing, and with sort of the consciousness that they were trying to express through their music. There's a, you know, at one level, the Bogside is no pressed place. It certainly is historically an oppressed place, but also an oppressive place. I mean, intense demands upon people to conform and not to step out of line, sort of, and there's an ancient Irish thing which was perhaps intensified in the situation in the Bogside at that time, that you didn't get above yourself. You know, it's, I mean, one of the, when people were slagging you off, they would say things like, we know you. We know where you come from. I mean, don't you get too big for your boots, and don't adopt airs and graces and styles, you know, that place you outside the consensus of the community.
I have to say, I feel a bit strange about being down here, you know, because you remember that Sex Pistols line in Holidays in the Sun about cheap holidays in other people's misery, you know what I mean? And obviously there's a lot of misery around here at one time. Do you think that anybody at the time was interested in the band partly because of the kind of political context from which you'd come?
I think it would be naive of us to say that it wasn't that way. There was obviously from day one, the first time I ran into a journalist, it was fairly obvious what the outside world perhaps was motivated by, because invariably you wanted to talk about politics and what was going on there, and why didn't we write songs about barbed wire, and on and on and on and on and on.
Yeah.
It's outrageously dangerous if you lived there, that you indicated any sort of allegiance one way or another. Could have got you in an awful lot of trouble. For us, it was more, you know, naive in that people honestly believed, and to this day it still goes on, and I still find myself having the same conversation. People are naive and stupid enough to believe that by turning up in Belfast or Derry and playing on stage for 2 hours, that's suddenly going to heal and bond a community that's been ripped apart for 400 years. It's like, you are dreaming. We lived and breathed what was going on in the early and mid-70s. All day, we dealt with it every single day of our lives. You could not walk to school in the morning without getting stopped and searched and questioned. So, you know, for us, getting up on stage in the Casbah on a Friday night and getting slightly bombed on 3 pints of beer, it was pure, utter escapism. And our audience, i.e. our mates, didn't really need us to get up in front of them on a Friday night and start lecturing them about what was politically going on and socially going on around them. For them, it was the same thing. You know, 3 pints of Guinness and hallelujah, here comes Saturday morning.
I remember we were playing in Oscars, and somebody came up and saying to me, you know, think you're in a band, you have a platform there to talk about what's going on here, you know, and coincidentally at that time I was really getting into listening to a lot of soul music, and What's Going On, Marvin Gaye was like my favourite record at the time, and that was like a classic benchmark in soul music as a comment on that whole period in the 60s and the civil rights movement in America, and I thought, well, you know, that's right, we really should at least try and say something here about what's going on, and that song Crisis of mine was about, you know, in a band and trying to, you know, mention about, you know, trying to, you know, talk about where you're from and what's happening, but not being very good at it, and that was a kind of a crisis I was in. And used to come up to the Casbah. His brother had been inside, had just come out, and that was at the time when there were the first releases of people from the initial reaction from Bloody Sunday, people joining up. The IRA were just getting released, and so he was the first person that I'd ever met that had actually been inside that got released. And that was kind of a weird experience. He was sort of almost disorientated for the first couple of weeks, and it was funny watching that, you know. And I remember, I'd known his girlfriend. You know, she'd remained his girlfriend all the time that he was inside. And the song "You're Welcome," that was about that there. It's kind of trendy, you know, write a song about that in some way, articulate that, you know.
The hunger strike was kind of an emotive subject, so I had the tune, I wrote the music, and the chorus was "It's going to happen all the time," because, you know, Ireland's got a history of hunger strikes. The main chorus was "It's going to happen until you change your mind," meaning the British government. He actually did Top of Pops for "It's Gonna Happen" on the day Bobby Sands died, and I'm actually on TV with Black Armband. I don't regret doing that, actually, but at the same time, I'm very conscious that maybe I probably might have alienated people, Protestants especially, who might have been watching that, going, "What's he doing that for?" You know, I'm an Undertone fan for years, and you know, like, obviously, why is he? This is like supporting an IRA terrorist here, and that makes me a bit uneasy, because I didn't want to rub people up the wrong way.
Up room there was Damian's bedroom. That was where we practiced right up till the third LP came out.
We'd practice upstairs, and then next day we'd be in Sheffield or something.
Well, like with, you know, two guitars going through one amp, and the vocals looking through the bass amp.
Billy would have T-shirts with the drums to dampen the sound. But used to have, like, Wayne's and all used to come outside and listen to his practice.
Is that right?
That's famous, and it was nice.
True punk spirit.
True punk spirit. God, everything looks so small. Oh dear. It's weird. Everything's
same but
shrunk.
The same but different.
Same but different.
Yeah.
And this is the famous backyard. This is where we did My Perfect Cousin video. Well, shot most of it, like, out in the back here.
Now I've got a cousin called Kevin. He's sure to go to heaven. Always spotless, clean and neat, as smooth as you'll maths, physics, and bionics. He thinks that I'm a cabbage, cause I hate university challenge. Even at the age of 10, Smart for Kevin was a smart boy then. He always beat me at the booty, yo, cause he flicked a kick and I didn't know. Oh, my perfect cousin, what I like to do, he doesn't. He's his family's pride and joy, his mother's little golden boy. His mother bought him a synthesizer, got the Human League into advisor. Now he's making lots of noise, playing along with the art school boys. Girls try to attract his attention, but what a shame, it's in vain, total rejection. He will never be left on the shelf, cause Kevin, he's in love with himself. Oh, my perfect cousin, what I like to do, he doesn't. He's his family's pride and joy, his mother's little golden boy.
It's just weird being here again all these years later.
I'm sure it is.
This very garden where we were standing playing guitars and stuff. And there's the old gate. I think it is the old gate as well.
My dad still loves sitting out in the sun. That's what I kind of recollect.
I've got memories of my dad just sitting here.
Aye.
Having a fag.
So you think you're so clever, never in doubt, but I've seen you together, fooling about. Don't get me wrong now, I've seen what you are. Mommy wouldn't like it, it's gone too far. What's the use of singing this song? Some of you aren't even listening.
So who was the first to say the Undertones don't exist anymore, or if they do, I'm not one of them?
Feargal.
Yeah.
He announced after the Sin of Pride, we were on tour and we were promoting the LP. I think we were in Sweden. And he just said, I don't want to do this anymore. He says, I'm leaving the band. And I remember just thinking, we were all kind of
relieved.
So you're relieved, not...
it was in the air for us, because we were
Just needed
playing
some-
half-capacity halls, and it was just demoralising.
You just needed somebody to say it.
Somebody to say.
We knew that Feargal was uneasy. He wasn't happy. We knew that he had started to develop almost different tastes in music, or else maybe we were too critical of his taste in music. And by 1983, he just got fed up with it. He obviously realised he didn't have to be in a group of 5 where people are criticising what he wore, what he said, and what he listened to.
The last couple of years in the Undertones for all of us was very difficult. And again, being honest about it, I would suspect that the conversations generally tried to revolve around, well, can you turn that up a bit or can you turn that down a bit?
Thank you. Thank you.
There is an awful lot of wounds there, and they will perhaps take an awful lot of time to heal, if at all they ever do get healed.
Tends to be the case that the longer things go on, the longer they go on.
I think it's more, has anybody got the motivation to go and heal them at this point in time? And I suspect that may not necessarily be the case, which is, you know, that's okay too. The simple truth was that we all made that decision back in the early 80s.
There was a divide between Feargal and the rest of us, I would say, from day one. There are a couple of simple things. He worked He had a job with Radio Rentals, we didn't. He had a bit of money, we didn't. You know, he was earning £35 a week, we were earning £20 a week. He had a car, he didn't write the songs, and whenever we were actually in the band and professional and so on, there was almost a feeling that we had to watch him, you know, which is really bad attitude when I look back on it. But he would say some things in interviews perfectly within his rights. It's what he really thought. But the rest of us would sort of go, shouldn't have said that.
Certainly when I left the band, I had absolutely no idea what the hell I was going to do. I know an awful lot of people, at some point I got the impression some people thought I had some sort of huge master plan concocted, that I was just going to walk out of the band and go and follow stages 1, 2 and 3 and it would all be absolutely fantastic, and I just hadn't a clue.
We had no long-term sort of
plan,
whatever, you know.
I think we were just grateful to get that far, even.
We'd probably never seen further than the first LP, you know.
No.
You know?
But that was sort of part of that punk ethic, because we used to have bands who'd do a session and then break up. So they just, you know, you'd phone them a few months later and ask if they wanted to do another. So we've broken up, and we did the session, so that's fine. We can go back to doing, you know, back to the farm.
I hear a lot of stories, I suppose they could be true, all about love and what it can do to you. Highest risk of striking out, the risk of getting hurt, and still I have so much to learn.
And what about your solo tunes? Because, I mean, do people give them, do they give you any credit for those now?
They probably come in from sort of a bit of a bashing from, you know, certain old hardcore Undertones fans, which I can completely understand, and it's perfectly reasonable.
You're proud of them yourself?
Unbelievably so. I can still turn on radio stations all over the world and hear a good heart being played.
That must be
It's stunning. I mean, what more does any musician want out of life? And it was, you know, always something, even from the earliest days, that when we were getting the band together, we kind of wanted to try and achieve that in 20, 30, 40, 50 years' time, people would still find some validity to what you'd done. Even if it was just as pure entertainment and background noise, the fact that they're even willing to accept it that far and not just dismiss it utterly as complete drivel and dross, it's an achievement all in itself.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Now I've got a cousin called Kevin. He's sure to go to heaven. Always spotless, clean and neat, as smooth as you'll get him. He's got a fur-lined sheepskin jacket.
1983 was a terrible year. And I was in the doldrums. That was my worst period personally in my life. I broke up with my girlfriend, and the Undertones had broken up. I was broke. And I was living in London, expensive rent and all that, and not knowing many people, so it was dreadful. Unfortunately, what saved me then was John Raymond coming over and playing me their songs, that Petrol Motions, early Petrol Motion songs, and it just blew me away, going, wow. And that's what started me again, getting enthusiastic about music and the gang mentality again of that Petrol Motion, you know, of the band. Derry boys again and all that stuff. It was great. It was really great.
We have, of course, welcomed Ash back to the studio, but that alone would be exciting. But then, what about if they did an Undertones song? And what about if they did that Undertones song with an undertone like Damian O'Neill? Aha! Well, that's exactly what they're going to do now. Please welcome, with Damian O'Neill, Ash.
So hard to be. Every time she walks down the street, another girl in the neighborhood. I wish she was mine. She looks so good. I wanna hold her tight. Get teenage kids right through the night. Gonna call on the telephone.
You've always been very resolute about not having an Undertones reunion, or not being part of an Undertones reunion.
There was a certain irony in there that I was being asked on my 36th birthday to stand in a muddy field in Germany in front of 100,000 Germans singing Teenage Kicks.
I can see that there would be a dilemma.
It's like, okay.
Feargal's notion that the band are too old is probably a very valid one, but it's different with. See, this sounds such an obvious and stupid thing to say, but thinking about it and doing it are two completely different things, and doing it, it takes on a different light. When you actually do it, it takes on its own character, it takes on its own presence or whatever. It just becomes a different thing. So I think it would have been a corny thing to say 40-year-old men getting on stage singing about Teenage Kicks, and I agree with them, it does seem corny. But when you're doing it, it's not like that at all. Everyone loves it, and it's great. And you don't really think about it, you just do it. And you kind of think, well, geez, everyone's having a good time, so why not just keep doing it and just get on with it?
I always seem to the whole Undertones thing seemed a bit of an embarrassment to him. I always got that kind of impression, that that whole kind of naive little boy sort of thing that was.
Yeah, but you can't. I mean, obviously there are people who carried on being naive little boys in a rather embarrassing way into their 40s and beyond, you know. So I can kind of sort of understand that in a way, because you don't want to retrace your steps. But on the other hand, that's precisely what you're kind of doing now. Try and sound like Feargal, Paul, or no?
No, I mean, no, in a word.
So you didn't make any adjustments to be Feargal-esque?
No, I think that would have been a really bad move, I think, you know, because people would have twigged that straight away. Yeah. And you just go and do. I just go and do it, open my mouth and whatever comes out, basically. And some people have drawn comparisons and said he sounds a bit like him, but I've never tried to. I think the kind of key to this is that the Undertones songs, for some reason, don't lend themselves very well to that kind of mid-Atlantic croon that a lot of singers adopt, and maybe that I would adopt, you know, singing with other bands or whatever. The only way to sing an Undertones song really is in a Derry accent.
I know that, because when I'm singing along with Teenage Kicks, I sing it with a Derry accent.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, all the way from Londonderry in Dublin, ladies and gentlemen, dear Lord, goodness gracious, the Undertones. Thank you very much.
Little mommy's boy, he wasn't very old, though he was very small, he did what he was told. Jimmy, 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 oh, Jimmy, Jimmy. Jimmy wouldn't let go. He stay awake at night, lying in his bed. No one ever listened to a single word he said. Jimmy, 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 oh, Jimmy, Jimmy. Poor little Jimmy wouldn't let go. Jimmy's gone, he disappeared one day. No one saw the ambulance, they took little Jim away. Jimmy, Jimmy,
we've an opportunity of doing it again, so to speak, and this time we can do it on our terms. That's the beauty about it, because we don't need it. You know, we can all go back to our day jobs and do our own thing, but the more that we're doing it, I think gradually everyone's kind of getting a wee bit, God, this could go to, this could develop into something a bit more. And maybe the rest of the guys in the band really don't want to analyse it because it might be wishful thinking, and it's a thing that's kind of happened, and maybe we should just let it lie and just kind of move on and get on, because they're older and they got wives and families, and those things are more important.
It's funny, but it's taken us 20 years to actually realise now how good we were. That's the ironic thing. Though, when we were actually going, I don't think we rated ourselves. We were never as good
Well,
as...
that's perhaps why you were so good, if you see what I mean.
Probably. We didn't realise that then. But now we can see, God, you know, we were a great band.
There's few instances in your life when you can point the finger and go, well, it was his bloody fault. And in this instance, all of us can do it to you.
To me?
Absolutely, it was your fault.
Oh,
the luck of it.
Okay, I was thinking, who's going to get that? So would you ever do another Radio 1 session?
Yes.
Keepers, it's
Well,
a long question.
Yes.
No.
Why not? How many do you need? Four?
Four. Anyway, the option's there if you wanted to do it, obviously.
Really?
Yeah, of course. The Undertones, of course, and I was in Derry to make a documentary about the band, and but just really spent most of the time just sitting and eating and drinking and talking nonsense, as always, most agreeable. And my thanks to Vinnie and Tommy, should they be listening, who were the people who organised it all in the first place.